Hello everyone, Burb here. Sagittarius Cup just ended, and so as a bonus topic, I wanted to go through my experience with the Sagittarius Cup in a way that at least I find instructive, and I hope you find as instructive as well. I'm going to be going over a lot of the mistakes I made during the Sagittarius Cup and what I've learned for future champions meetings. So, without further ado, let's begin. I enjoy following the anti-frustration plan that I laid out in a couple of previous videos, which is essentially you build your meta Uma first, you make it passable, you build an oshi Uma, and then you build Umas that further the account, and then you repeat step 2 and 3 over and over and over again, and I kind of just left the meta Uma that was very passable in there. For this one, I chose Gold Ship as the meta because that's really the only base end closer that has anything that is not cursed for me, because my auto top gun is pretty cursed for me. But I had a very good Gold Ship, so I thought we'll go over the mistakes with this one, but at first glance at least, there is a lot of skills because this was a fast learner Gold Ship with long S. I got lucky, and it does meet the minimum stat thresholds, especially at Great Mood, because you get the 900, 300 Stamina Guts threshold. Right, so this was the meta Uma, this was passable, this was made probably in the first week, and then I sort of just let it ride. Looking back, probably should have re-rolled this a little bit more, but for now, I mean, this is entirely passable, and like I said, making meta Umas is not necessarily my forte, and it gets me frustrated very easily. So I moved on to the Oshi Uma, and there's a lot of iterations with me building winning ticket this CM because it is passable, and I enjoy building the character because she gives you everything you need to build as a late surger, and I like building late surgers. So I was able to run this one over and over and over again until I got lucky with a Turf S long S Uma that has all the skills it needs. So it has the Pro Curve, it has the Nimble Navigator, it has some corners, it has some mid-race skills, a lot of acceleration, some pump iron and moving past, a lot of acceleration options. We'll go over the mistakes with this Uma in a bit, but we moved on to the future of the account, which is where I started making enforcing Dobers and Ryans until I got some decent ones. Both of these ended up being rolled over, but for a different reason, because we got one that was better right at the very end. But these just rolling these two gave me some good parents for the future long CMs that happen. Specifically, Measure Dober was surprisingly good because just her ultimate moving past and beyond at 3 times effectiveness, because it's innate, was just enough to catapult herself. And because it was guaranteed if she was in 5th or 6th, it just kind of meant that if I had high enough wit that I was able to get into 5th or 6th, she had a very good chance of winning. Measure Orion did not fare as well because of the lower wit, as we're finding out. I'll talk about that in a bit. But basically just didn't have as many good mid-race skills and less acceleration options, and obviously just having 6 instead of 5th 6 wasn't as good. If I were to actually 100% quote-unquote try in this one, I probably would have run the Measure Orion or the Measure Dober over winning ticket, but you don't ever, you let your Oshi run the Harima Keenan, come on. So I kept redoing it. I did 2 and 3, and eventually I did get incredibly lucky with an Oguri cap roll because I was just making some Oguri caps, just parents and generals, and I had the thought, it'd be kind of funny if I just made Christmas Oguri, because that's what the meta is, right? And, what would be the most funny thing when there's a bunch of Christmas Oguris running around? Well, what if you just got beat by original Oguri cap? So this is just Christmas Oguri at home. The biggest thing about this is just end S and long S. It's a little bit low wit, but the end S helps with that, and just some additional speed. We got a little bit unlucky with speed cards at the very end, but there is 4 white acceleration options on this one, which will be very important later. Uma Stan plus a bunch of straight skills and Professor of Curvature to help in the mid race. This Oguri cap ended up being kind of a monster. So it's kind of funny because this is the Rima Keenan, this is Oguri cap's race. And I didn't pull Christmas Oguri, but we make do with what we have. So the end story of this is just basically like you get frustrated, just keep rolling. Like, for example, winning ticket. I had a bunch of winning tickets that were like good enough. They have their own strengths and weaknesses, like This winning ticket had the highest wit and long S, but it didn't have. What was the problem with this one? It didn't have enough skill points and enough skills in general, and also its stamina was basically bearing on only rolling great mood, essentially. So like half the time it had like zero chance whatsoever. This winning ticket over here just kind of trolled with on your left. Both of these did, actually. And the same thing kind of happened. We went through the whole thing. The stamina is a lot better, but the wit is so much worse than the one that we chose to use. And so we just kind of had a graveyard of winning tickets. This is after an entire clean out. So, and it probably was about double this, but you just got to keep rolling over and over again for these Umas. If you want a good Uma and you're high rolling, get one that's a baseline and keep going over and over again. As you can see, the only one that was really quick was the Meta Uma. We kind of just rolled 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth one we hit and we were done. But all these diamonds right here were actually decent parents, and like these parents, like they're useful as grandparents, and some of them even were parents for different Umas that I used. Like we got a Dober Long, which is kind of ridiculous. It's a bad long spark, but it's a long spark in general with a Dober. So for late surges and future long races or this current race, we were able to run Dober with at least some long help at all. Like it's not great, but it has Unity Cup plus long plus wit. What can you ask for more? We got this ridiculous 2-2 wit turf Dober with like all the late surger skills. We got another Dober that was speed turf, so if we wanted speed instead of wit, with like 4 or 5 good skills. I know a lot more about parenting now, but a lot of these are not like incredible, but they are pretty good for what we were making. And long CMs, it's just because we were forcing Dobers, it's like it's not going to happen every time. Got my out of Top Gun with head on. That was kind of nice for the pace chasers. We didn't end up making a pace chaser, but you know, it was there. And when we got a couple of god rolls, I did a random Tachyon guts test, and ended up making a wit medium groundwork grandparent, and another Dober that was a 3-3 mile that's just going to sit in the back until we're able to make it. It's a 3-3 mile with Unity Cup. We can start cycling her. We made a ticket with 3-1 long, and you're just going to get these parents as you're just going through these runs, and just keep an eye out for them. And you're like, the stuff you're making, as long as you're making parents that you either care about or like that you're going to use on other Umas anyways, like you're going to come out with something eventually. So the final team, as we saw, was the gold ship, the winning ticket, which was pretty high wit winning ticket, pretty low wit gold ship, and a Christmas, quote unquote, not really Christmas Oguri, it's original Oguri. That was kind of the anchor piece of this CM. So how do we do? The gold ship ended up with 20 victories over the course of the CM. Oguri Cap ended up with 25 victories and ended up becoming the best ace of the team. And then winning ticket, yeah, we got 6. I mean, it's more than I could have asked for, and I was pretty hyped when it did happen. But luckily, 23 second place finishes, which is kind of wild that it came so close so many times. So our final results, even though we were 20 plus 25, 45, 51 out of 80, 51 out of 81 technically. I'm not going to spoil the A finals, but the problem that I was having is that round 1, we went 33 out of 40. We were absolutely destroying just the base population, which is expected. But we've dropped all the way down to 17 or 18 wins in round 2. And that was because of a couple of mistakes that I made that, looking back, were pretty easily fixable. So the first one and the biggest one is really just the general lack of gold skills on these. Like, I didn't take On Your Left, and I didn't take No Stopping Me on a lot of these in lieu of taking a bunch of other whites because, well, I was like, well, I wanted consistency. I wanted at least one of them to proc. Like if I'm in 6th place or if I'm rushed, like one of these don't work. Moving past doesn't work, or Let's Pump Some Iron doesn't work, or if I'm not blocked, I don't get nimble. Oh, it just turns out that a lot of these times I just really needed to high roll. And so I really needed that 3x like effectiveness, no stopping me when it procs. And it was okay running 3 gamblers if some of them just don't hit all the time. And I was really afraid of just them not having any chance whatsoever. And it's kind of like most well seen on this winning ticket, because this winning ticket had 23 second place finishes. And like, if I just did a nimble navigator, well, if she may have only had like 13 second place finishes, but she may have had like 14 or 15 wins instead of 6 wins. And like, just because she was procking 2 to 3 whites every single time, it just wasn't enough acceleration to get past the other Uma. So going forward, like, I'm going to really prioritize even the gold skills, even though they may be low priority, like low percentage plays, because when they hit, and they win you the race rather than getting you into second place. The problem with the gold ship, the big one, is that I had low wit, so I really focused racing because of the fast learner proc that happened on it, and it turned out to be a little bit of a mistake because there's a whole lot of skills on this one. I also specifically took 2 whites because I thought at 895 stamina, and it's true that you still spurt if only 1 white procs, but I didn't take into consideration awful mood, and I didn't take into consideration any debuffs. So a lot of times when I was debuffed, I needed both whites to proc. The math behind it is that if I only need 1 white skill to proc to survive the race, right? If I'm rushed and I only need 1 white skill to survive the race, well, I only have to hit 1 out of 2 of the skills rather than both of the skills. Right, so the odds of that are higher than if a singular skill proc'd on a Swinging Maestro, and it's the same effect because I didn't want to overstand. But it turns out if you get debuffed at all, or if you get rushed and you get minorly debuffed, which was happening a little bit, you needed both skill procs to procs, and that odds is much less. You have to roll 2 wit checks instead of 1 wit check, and all of a sudden this gold ship was just dying. So the times that she didn't win, she was dying, and she probably would have gotten a bunch more wins, probably 5 to 6 from the Oguri, from the other Umas in the race, just if I would have made that simple adjustment. Winning ticket, the biggest one is lack of Uma stand. Not much you can really do there, except I didn't really know how to circle train parents and like try to feed down Uma stand through my parents as I'm training Umas. I know that a little better now. That may be a video in the future, but not having Uma stand basically means that if all the end closes, including my own end closes, proc Uma stand all together, which a lot of times they do, winning ticket was getting passed, and that's not even the problem because the winning ticket, you can come back from that. The problem is that when the end closers actually just pace down themselves, you just get dragged with them. And so a lot of times just ticket was in 9th place, not because of anything that she did. It's just that there was Uma stand that got pushed in front of you, and then you just got dragged all the way to the back of the pack. And that happened more than once, and honestly, that was probably the biggest reason why she only won 6 races. If that didn't happen, she was pretty good. Oguri Cap, I did greed a little bit with the wit power at the end of the career. I think it ended up being worth it because it turns out 1200 speed probably wasn't the most important thing this CM. But because of that, my speed cards ended up just going on vacation like in summer onward. It was kind of ridiculous. And so that's why we ended up with 1146 speed. But as it turns out power and wit, and I grossly underestimated power this CM, was incredibly important because in the mid-race, those 2 uphills were just killer if you didn't have power. A lot of characters who had 1200 wit, 1200 speed, 600 power were just dying in the mid-race because of it, even with a high wit roll, because it was just lowering your target speed so much. So those are the mistakes and the stuff I learned. So if you're looking for an analysis of the video, that's pretty much the end of it. However, if you're wanting to continue, I did end up watching my A finals, and going into A finals, I was very scared because we just dropped by over half. We barely made it in. We didn't have a ticket over 4 until the last ticket. A lot of them, we had 2 3s, a 4, and a bunch of 1s and 2s. So going into this A finals, I was certainly felt like the underdog. I got a little bit of a break on the A finals rolls. We had a Measure McQueen, who is very good, has ridiculous stats, let's be honest, is literally 1 point away from stamina threshold, because I believe 867, she may hit it. I think she's exactly at 900 with it. So got lucky with the stamina threshold, but lots of power, lots of wit, long S, of course. Tokyo race course is the wrong race course, so there is some random mistakes. Most likely Tokyo race course just taken because you have extra skill points, but lots of white skills just like mine, which just meant that like we were kind of on the even playing field. Then again, also we had this really scary Measure of Dover long S, which is crazy because that's 2 two sparks at the same time. Luckily, only had 1082 speed and low wit, but had a lot of golds, had a lot of late surger stuff, and a lot of green skills. So high base stats that were just kind of compensated, but honestly, it just the low speed just kind of helped me a lot. And then a gold city came here, low speed again, but long S turf S, lots of greens to compensate. Did end up getting the outer post, so that came into play. So had enough speed and just a little bit of lack of skill, but otherwise a perfectly fine Uma. These two were run late, and this was run as a pace chaser. But then we had the one that knew what he was doing a lot. We had a Mayano Top Gun, where really the only mistake that they made was taking early start, because that skill doesn't really do that much because it's a mid-race skill with 0.05 speed increase. But otherwise, look at this, like just every single skill that you really need. There's nothing missing here. It's a very good Mayano Top Gun end closer. Manhattan Cafe, we had a debuff, which was kind of major. I already kind of knew that my gold ship, if she rolled too high in wit, she was dead. And then we had Tamamo Cross. So Tamamo Cross built almost perfectly fine. The only thing I would change, of course, is trying to get the tail held high gold at pretty much any means necessary, because you have all these corner skills, but you don't really have anything in your mid race to help you actually do anything, because you have a ramp up that needs you to pass, but you have nothing supporting it at all. So finding a way to get your ramp up to proc, probably with two skills plus the tail held high, would be the only mistake that this one really has. It has M-Pass, it has all the accelerations required, it has Spurt. So with 3 characters with Spurt, plus my 2 characters with Spurt, plus a lucky pace chaser by default, I was not feeling very good with A finals. But then again, here were my A finals.
おめでとさん。そうか。オグリキャップ、見事サジタリウス杯を制し優秀の頂点へ立ちました。2着はタバモクロス、3着はメジロマクイーン。よし。お腹が空いたな。
So yes, what have we learned? Well, from that video, you can never stop the canon moment. So there you go. Just run the character that actually won the race in the anime, and you win the race. All right. So GG. Someday winning ticket will win a finals. Hope you enjoyed. Burb out.